How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews. Back with a beer I haven't had in a very, very long time. That be Liefmans. It's their Goudenband. Yeah, Goudenband. 2016. This is an Oud Bruin. I have not had this beer in probably over 20 years. Maybe even longer. So it's kind of like going into it brand new. Yeah. So we'll see what's what. Let's get this out of the paper first, because I want to actually read some of the stuff in the paper, but I don't want to jostle the beer around all crazy. This is a 2016 edition that I just picked up off a shelf. Place that over there. Goudenband was voted the best Belgian beer, and rightly so. The beer is that Madame Rosé taught us to brew is simply world class. One of the most complex and rich palette of flavors that includes caramel, apple, wood, cherries, and malt. It is made exclusively from our most delicious mature beers, which each add their distinctive character and are carefully blended every year. It is a beer for storing that will become even tastier and even more full-bodied if you leave it in your cellar for just a bit longer. That's gold. 8% alcohol by volume. Like I said, it's an Oud Bruin. Let's see if there's anything else on the bottle specifically. I mean, it kind of regurgitates a bunch of stuff. 2016 edition, like I said. I think that's it. Yeah, let's crack into this sucker. Ooh. Yeah, there's a little decent amount of... There's a big Merc ring. I'm not sure if you guys can actually see that there, but there's a good quarter inch, a couple centimeters below that Merc ring. So it looks like it was sat for a bit in one place and maybe moved and jostled and maybe lost a little bit of something. Decent pop on it. I don't think we're going to get a decent carb on this bottle. We'll see how it ends up. Let's pour it like we're... Oh, actually, that's kind of promising. It's pouring actually pretty beautiful, to be perfectly honest with you. This is rich brown, doo-doo water brown, barley wine kind of brown. I know some people kind of look at that pour and go, oh my god, you're a freaking maniac. What can I say? I'm a jerk. But yeah, label-wise, the pomp of the paper on top of this classic kind of old school kind of labeling, I've always dug that, so I'm a big fan of the packaging. Beer-wise, actually looks quite nice. Sans my little bit of dirty glass mafia, you may see or not. It looks more like kind of rich old barley wine than anything else. So it has this kind of nice kind of toffee-colored head with this rich brown, due-to-water kind of hazy kind of body to it. So definitely looks the part of an Oud Bruin, but just from a distance, it really does give me kind of big barley wine kind of vibes. Talking about 5 years on this sucker. 8%. Let's get a nose. I mean, there is a nice tartness to this. I mean, Oud Bruins can vary quite a bit as far as sour goes, as far as sour notes. You can get really hyper ultra vinegar. You can get soft tartness. You can actually get a little bit more in the kind of barley wine kind of range that's just got a subtle little kind of green apple vibes on it. This doesn't really get, at least on the nose aromatically, doesn't get super apple cider vinegary, but there's a little bit of vinegary touch to it. There is a little nice rich kind of caramel vibes, almost dipping into that sugar daddy thing that I really do dig and enjoy when it comes to kind of barley wine. So it's got this nice rich kind of red fruitiness. I always kind of lean kind of cherry-like in Oud Bruins. Very red fruitiness. That's your Belgian yeast at work in a style of beer. With that soft little tartness. Like I said, it's a touch of vinegar, but almost a little bit more kind of that green apple kind of thing, a combination of those two. But it really does come off malty, rich, sweet, with a nice purposeful tartness and very much that sugar daddy kind of richness to it. So excited. Let's dive in. Cheers. That's delicious. Man, that's a really good beer. That's really good. Oh, man. I gotta find a freshie, because I'm kind of curious to see, because it's been so long. It said it's probably 20 plus years since I've had this beer. The sourness here is very much green apple. That little bit of vinegary notes that were on the nose doesn't really translate. I mean, there's a touch of it in the taste, but it really is more kind of green apple, kind of tart sourness for me, which I actually appreciate. Apple cider vinegar makes me gag. I can deal with it in beer, those kind of notes that you get from apple cider vinegar, to the point where I actually enjoy it in certain doses. But when it gives me... What's the best way to explain it? When it gets to the edge of that line but doesn't cross it is really where I like my kind of sour beers kind of lie, and that's where this one does it perfectly. It has this nice tartness. It doesn't get overtly sour. It's more tart for me, with a touch of acidity, than sour with a touch of tartness. The mouthfeel here is amazing. Like, it's got this almost doppelbocky kind of richness to it, and not like doppelbocky kind of like Salvatore, that Bock. More of like a celebrator kind of richness, breadiness kind of characteristic to it. Very much a Belgian kind of thing. This is Belgian, right? I should probably look that up. Where's the bird? I should know this. I actually feel quite dumb. I'm actually looking for where this is brewed. Yeah, it's Belgian. I don't know why I questioned that. Anyway, that mouthfeel's fantastic. Leads you into the malt portion of the show. It is rich. It does have that caramel leaning in the sugar daddy, but not overly sweet. You know, it has that kind of, I usually talk about it being like eating a Werther's Original and popping that Werther's Original out, and having that residual taste of that Werther's in your mouth, where you still get that like caramel kind of vibes, like not butterscotch, but like caramel Werther's Originals, and having that kind of wash across your palate, even though it's still not there. That's the kind of richness I get from this. I think age has done this wonderfully, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of times, you know, it's very hard to, especially for a beer I haven't had in quite some time, it's very hard to kind of think about where this beer was fresh as opposed to aged. And while I do want to get a freshie just to get an idea about where this beer has come from, because it's been so long, I think my assumption is that this beer was a bit sharper on the edges, both on the acidic and tart side of things. Maybe even a little bit more sweeter. And I think this beer is kind of rounded out. It is one whole complete package. And that's the one thing I actually haven't mentioned this whole time. And when I said that, it kind of dawned on me, and something I would be remiss if I didn't mention, is that it does taste like one singular beer. I know that sounds like a little bit of like, what are you talking about, man? A lot of times, you know, beers taste like have several different flavors going on, and they just, not that they don't work together, but they're distinctly individual in and of themselves. Age a lot of times helps mellow that character out, but you could still be like, okay, it's rich here, it's a little bit tart there, and it's very much kind of like, that's there, that's there, that's there. This tastes like you're drinking one singular thing. It's not like there's a tart component to the beer and it completely separate from the sweet component, completely separate from everything else. It really does come off as a singular, whole, single cell organism kind of entity. And I can't tell you how much I love that. That's fantastic. Each sip I take of this, I love it more and more. I really do. It's probably, let's cut to the chase, because actually, let's rewind. Talk about the beer for a second, and then we'll cut to that chase. So that washed out kind of like caramel leaning into sugar daddy, but undersweetened kind of thing, rides on top of this nice, subtly tart, slightly vinegar kind of component. That's like, I almost don't want to include the vinegar note here, but it's definitely there. That kind of helps shape or helps amplify that richness and delectableness of the beer. I think if you strip that tart and vinegar portion of the show, I think it's just kind of like a sweet water for lack of a better term. And when you add that tartness, you add that sweet portion to show that kind of counterbalances off, and you add that superb kind of mouthfeel to it. It really comes off as one of the best, if not one of the best all-time oud bruins that I've had. I mean, I love oud bruins, but they can kind of shoot in a bunch of different directions, as I said at the beginning of the video. You know, some can be hyper acidic, some can be hyper lactose, some can be, you know, a bunch of different ways. I do like them to skew a little bit more traditional, you know, something, I shouldn't say traditional, because Dutch is probably a little bit too vinegary for me, but then you're talking about, you know, something a little bit of, I don't know why I'm blanking on the other oud bruin I'm thinking of right now, because it's the other one. That's one of my more favorite ones. God damn it, I can't believe I can't think of it right now. It's like the other oud bruin. Anyway, this is kind of taking a lot of the parts of all the other ones that I really do enjoy and kind of put in a really great package. That 5 years on this bottle could have done a lot of service to this, to where maybe a different vintage might come off a little bit differently, but these 2016 jams are fantastic, and I'm loving it. So yeah, is this one of the better ones I've had as of late? Absolutely, without a doubt. Mount Rushmore status across the board. Value and availability. So these did not exist at the place that I purchased them not too long ago. So if you watch all my videos, I did a review of a old ale. It was a Doppelbock, right? It was a Doppelbock, a special, like it was a Brooklyn 25th anniversary. I think it was a Doppelbock that I reviewed. I reviewed that probably about a month and a half ago. I bought this at the same exact location as I purchased that beer. This did not exist on that shelf at that time. So this is a new get for that place, and this is not a crazy good bottle shop. This is kind of like a ghetto bottle shop in Washington, New Jersey that like carries little to no good beer. So I'm kind of guessing maybe they just had this floating around somewhere, because I don't think like a distributor would be like, hey, let's give you this 5-year-old, you know, oud bruin to throw on the shelf. I don't think they would do that. I picked it up there. They have several of these on the shelf for $10. $10. A $7.50 for $10 of this beer. It's almost criminal to pick it up. You know, 5 years old, drinking this pretty. Yeah. It can be found, apparently, because I found it at a Podunk bottle shop. And leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, if you like oud bruins that aren't overly acidic, aren't overly vinegary, but you still want that tartness, still want that sour component to the beer, but you want something that is just delicious. I mean, I'm going to be that basic and just say you want delicious beer, you'll like this. Yeah. I mean, you have to like sour beer, you have to like oud bruins, those kind of things. This is fantastic. I think this is fantastic. There you go. Review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. Podcasting stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of a oud bruin right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers.